Good evening. Good evening. This is Hurricane H, and you're watching the iHealth channel, listening live on iHealth Radio. This is a H Factor, and we have a special guest. All our guests are special, but today's a little bit more special because hailing straight up from Montreal, Canada, a YouTuber who is aspiring and getting there to be one of the top YouTubers out. So look out for his name and his site and his station channel. Actually, Brenden. Brenden is actually a specific host of a channel that talks about communication, about public speaking, about tools and tactics and things like that, how to a person can actually make it in their environment, in their workplace, and so on and so forth. So it is a little bit of a twist from our typical health related topics. But if you are in business, if you are in the health field, you somehow, somewhere, you're going to have to talk and communicate, whether you're a doctor or anyone in the industry or any related industries, you're going to have some bedside manner or some sort of way to discuss things. And so Brenden started this particular channel just to assist with these things and give his formula. So check him out on YouTube, and he'll tell us more about him, his history, his background, why he chose this, and then also give us some pointers as to where we're going from there. So that being said, give me 1 second here, and then we are live to the next point. All right. So, Brenden, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your story. Like, how did you come up to engage with this particular topic, and why this, not something else? So just give us a little bit of a background, and then we'll take it from there, and then all yours.
Absolutely, Hurricane. Thanks for having me on. So yeah,
Pleasure.
like you mentioned, I'm the founder of Master Talk, so I make YouTube videos on public speaking and communication. So how did I get started? Well, when I was in university, I used to compete in these things called case competitions. So think of it like professional sports, but for nerds. So while other guys my age would, eat chicken wings and watch sports all day or play sports, I did the same thing, but in presentations. So instead of watching the hockey game, instead of watching the football game, instead of watching the baseball game, I would watch other universities present. So that was my fun thing. That's what I did for fun. So for 3 years, I presented over 500 times, competed in 50 competitions, trained a bunch of people on public speaking. And then when I went to work for corporate, I started getting a corporate job, started working. I asked myself how I can transition a lot of the knowledge, a lot of the insight that I had on communication, public speaking to the world. And that's when the idea for the YouTube channel started. Because I realized a lot of channels don't really have good information on how to speak properly, how to communicate your ideas. And this is especially important in the health industry. So if you think of people like Dr. Stephen Gundry or Mark Hyman or all these other people who are very, very technical in medicine, who have a very deep expertise, what makes them well known is their ability to simplify very, very complicated studies or research that they've done in a way that someone like me or anybody who doesn't really know but much
Me.
that much can understand, right? So like one way of looking at it is saying, avocados have this XYZ benefit, and the easy way of explaining it is just eat avocados, right? You know what I mean? So it's just, things like that, simplifying it so people understand it. So whether you're in health, whether you're in fitness, whether you're in work or anything, communication is the gateway that allows you to scale your ideas, to share it with millions of people instead of just a couple of hundred people in your community.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, communication is the vehicle to everything. I mean, even sign language is communication. Even if you can't, you have to have a way to do it, right? So ideas, anything needs to be conveyed in a particular way. And a lot of people actually, it is said that what is it? Public speaking is one of the most feared items, or like the top fears out there. So people actually are frightened to actually stand or talk. I mean, listen, we all talk. I mean, in my world, I do it all the time, but sometimes it is difficult, and especially when you have a big crowd, and or you want to make sure that you have all these doubts about your personality, about your looks, about your conversation, about your accent, whatever it may be. Sometimes people have these fears, and it gets psychological with that, and sometimes people cannot deliver exactly to your point. And also to the other point is like some people actually talk and they want to say so complex things, and it's they're very complex. People will not even understand like what was just happening here. So again, simplifying things and being able to make that transition of an idea to a group or to an individual, it's important. In our health field, we actually, especially in my area of expertise, which is the senior markets, we talk a lot more with elderly, and obviously they're hearing, and they're just everything is a little different. So you have to pace it differently. You have to elevate your voices and raise a little bit your tone. So all these things. I mean, obviously you're gonna tell us a little bit more about some of these things, but to your earlier point, it is important, and we appreciate. I mean, I personally appreciate the fact that you've taken this as your route and your real estate in YouTube, because I don't think there's much of this available out there. So now, how long you been doing this for?
Yeah, so I've been coaching people for 5 years now, and I started YouTube 2 years ago.
So 5 years, is that specifically the two in enterprises, individuals, like one-on-ones, or like group settings, college?
Yeah, for sure. So when I started coaching people when I was 19, 20, and then I was
Wow.
doing mostly university students, so people who would enter the new program. So how the competition program works is 80 people compete every year, but every year new people leave, they graduate, they move on to the next thing, and new people enter, right? So I was the mentor for all of those students who would enter the program. But after I graduated, I transitioned from university student coaching to coaching CEOs primarily.
Wow, impressive. Well, I was going to tell you that. I mean, in a lot of companies, you have divisions, and especially in the training or learning development, they have people that specialize in some of these particular tools to help people, especially if they're in sales or like they're going to do like I guess presentations, or CEOs specifically. They have to actually stand in front of audiences and pitch, and sell their vision, their ideas, and all that stuff. So it's important. So, but I mean, literally, I mean, I gotta give you like a chapeau, literally, like here, of being able to pull this off and making it happen. So are you obviously still doing that, right? Besides the YouTube.
You got it. So I mostly spend my time coaching clients, making YouTube videos, and working at my day job. That's kind of how I balance the three. But it's been fun.
Hey,
It's been
listen.
fun.
Well, is your day job same in the same world, or like you just
Pretty similar. Yeah, I'm a technology consultant at IBM.
Wow. You just add up to to the limit. So that's good. It's good. So I did see some of your YouTube, clips, and they're very, I like the setting. I like the way you presented. The look. I mean, it's pretty up there. So proud of you. I'm sure your parents are proud, and everybody that you're surrounding your entourage is like, hey, go Brenden. Um,
I
and and
appreciate that, man.
and you do it also in English only, or you do it also in French? Because assuming that you obviously speak French, so uh, does that matter to you?
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. So I keynote a lot in French. So let's say when I give presentations, because since I live in Montreal, a lot of the companies here are French speaking. So yeah, I keynote a lot in French, but my videos are primarily in English. There's one I did in French where I talk about how to present in a second language, because I know a lot of people struggle with that. So I had a video up there on that as well.
Okay. So let's talk about the public speaking. Why is it that people are scared? What is the first thing that people tell you?
Absolutely. So let's start by thinking about this, right? In the sense of why is everyone so scared? For some reason, regardless of our culture, where we grow up, where we are in the world, we're all scared of public speaking. We don't actually know why. So let's break that down. The first question we need to ask ourselves, Hurricane, is why, or where rather, do we present? Where do we give most of the presentations? The answer is the classroom. We don't wake up one morning and go, hey, Hurricane, you want to get breakfast and present all day? Nobody really does that. It's not really a fun thing to do. We're in high school, a history teacher comes up to us and says, hey, Hurricane, Brenda, I need you to do a presentation on the Renaissance. And you're just there like, what is this? Like
Ooh,
a
I like that.
right? You kind of figure that shit out and you don't really know. But the point is simple. You never get to pick the topic, and it's generally something you're never passionate about. You're presenting to students who don't care, not because they don't care about you, but because they're worried about their own presentation. So they don't have time to think about your presentation. And then you have a teacher who's very well educated, very well intentioned, but is too stressed to go through 30 presentations in 2 classes. She doesn't have time. He doesn't have time to go through all of these and give you private coaching on how to master public speaking. But this behavior, this triage comes about again and again. Math, sciences, English, French, Spanish, gym, music. We're always presenting to audiences who don't care to listen to us because they have to present. We never get to pick the topic, and our teachers don't have time to coach us. No wonder we're scared, because we see it as a chore, as a responsibility, as something we don't want to do, as an obligation, rather than an impact drive, rather than something that makes a difference like this conversation. So we need to shift.
So during your experience with CEOs and you know, people that you mentor and coach, what would be like one thing that like a couple of things that some of them have told you specifically where they really had a handicap or like a hiccup, literally they just can't get beyond it, and tell us a little bit how you would possibly turn that to something more effective.
This is going to be interesting to you. No one's ever asked me that, so I like the question. The idea with CEOs is they generally have a very high standard of excellence in everything that they do. So think about operations, day-to-day management, you know, their health, you know, they have everything in order. You know, they're very high achievers. Every second counts. Time is money. Or if they're the leader of a movement, because I coach those people too, they're focused on the impact. They're focused on everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the issue is that that same level of excellence, that same rigor, they don't have in public speaking. And the reason is because the people they're surrounded by don't know how to coach them. So let's say, for example, I don't know, we're on the same team and I gain 10 pounds. Okay, I just get fat because I'm not eating properly. You're going to notice. You're going to say, hey, Brenden, what have you been eating this time, man? What have you been eating this week? What have you been doing? You can hold me accountable. I go, you know what, Hurricane, you're right. I gotta ditch the burger, start eating more avocados, right, and salads. Same thing with my relationships. You know, my relationships are going well. Maybe I can talk with my family, close. But in presentations, since most people aren't very good at them, if the CEO presents pretty well, which he or she usually does, no one really has feedback for them. They go, oh, good job. That was really good. They never really say, hey, you suck, because they're not any better than the CEO.
Or they're afraid.
Or they're afraid. Yeah, that's true.
That's like, I'm gonna tell the CEO that you really did a bad job. That doesn't sound right, right?
But
Actually, it's a challenge, and yeah, you're right.
right, but even in the most open-minded, but you're right most of the time. But let's say in open-minded cultures, like some of the CEOs I coach are very open-minded, or else why would they hire someone like me? Yeah, because I'm like a third of their age or half their age, right? So these are pretty open-minded organizations, right? But even in those situations where they're super open-minded, nobody has the skill set to just say, hey, Mark or John or Rebecca, this is what you're missing here. Nobody has that expertise. So when I walk in and my standard of excellence is like way up there, when I see the CEO present, I go, is that all you can do? Right? Is that it? And then I poke like 50 holes in their presentation. They go, no one's ever told me this. So that's the issue with that they run into. It's not that they're bad people or low performers. They're very excellent in what they do. They just don't have that same rigor because nobody has come into the picture that is that good at public speaking to say, this is what you're missing.
When you coach them, thank you by the way for that clarification. When you're coaching individuals, do you use specific tools or like audiovisual maybe so they can see their presentation? I do trainings as well, and I can tell you it helps a lot. When it's one thing when you talk, and then when you see like what you just said, oh my God, what the hell just happened, right? And it happens. I mean, it happens to all of us. It happens to me. I know, and sometimes you evaluate yourself and be like, oh, I could have done this better. But again, you have to have self, kind of
awareness.
Like, awareness. Otherwise, you're not going to see it. And you're like, okay, whatever. And so what would be that, method or, tools that you use?
Right. So here's an easy one that will work for 99% of speakers. So pretty much everyone who's listening. This is what I call the repeatable presentation, because the number one problem that we have with public speaking, besides the fear that comes with it, is most of us don't know how to practice it. Let me give you an example. When you learn a new skill, piano, basketball, baking, cakes, new recipe, whatever you want, In any of those skills, even if they're different, you're always focused on the same thing. So if you take piano, for example, sure, you can try playing 50 songs if you want, but at the end of the day, it's probably easier for you to pick one song, do it 100 times, 50 times, 25 times, and then know how to play it. So when you play it, your friends go, wow,
You
Hurricane, you're
master it.
good.
Yeah.
You're so good. Even if you only know one song. But it gives you confidence to say, I'm the best. I could do this one song. I could do the other 49 too. And it's much easier for you to crush everything else. But we don't apply that to presentations. We don't apply that analogy to public speaking. It's Wednesday. Your boss, your client, your teacher comes up to you and says, Hurricane, I need you to do a presentation on X, Y, and Z for Friday. And you're just thinking there, why did they say X, Y, and Z? I'm so confused. I don't know what's going on. But anyways, you make some slides. Yeah, you get to work. You ignore your family, right? Because you got to get this done. And then it's Friday, you present, and then you take the presentation you just gave that you spent so much time on, so many hours, you crumble it up and you put it in the garbage, you move on to the next presentation. Whereas the best speakers in the world present the same thing hundreds of times. My keynote that I give, I have presented it 300 times. Not 3 times, not 30 times, 300 times. That's why I'm good at public speaking. Not because I'm special, not because I'm important, but because I do the same damn thing hundreds of times.
Practice makes perfect. And actually, it's funny. I always give this example. I mean, personally in my life, I mean, I've done a lot of presentations and things. And also, I've done martial arts. And in martial arts, in traditional martial arts, you have to do katas, forms.
Yeah,
And so you're into that stuff?
yeah,
Well,
yeah. I'm a brown
so
belt
you,
in Kempo.
so Campo, you need to like really know your stuff, and you got to do it like 10,000 times, not even 300 times. That move's got to be so solid that crisp, right? And it's the same thing. So in the forms, that's why if you ever see demos where how they do it, I mean, it's like one motion, especially when you have team demos, and each individual, it's a symphony that is happening right there, right? So it's the same thing. Practicing the pitch is important. We do that in the sales field, and when we coach and train representatives that actually present, we try to do these presentations over and over. So it's the same pitch, but they just have to perfect it and make it like really flowing right. It's fluid. It's nice. It's coherent. So you're right. It doesn't happen if you did it. You can do little things too many times, or you can do a couple of things very nicely and to the best. So totally agree. And for those viewers or listeners, again, as Brenda's advice, take your best, pitch and make it work. And I wanted to just comment on one item you mentioned, and this actually happened to me personally, and I hate when it happens, and it happened a couple of times. So again, corporate world, you're in a role where you have to actually, you lead a particular group, whatever, and sometimes you get called. Hey, I need to present something. Now, anything that I am comfortable with, that I'm like, I know I'm mastered, I get up there, I'm just going to do it because I get the pitch. But sometimes they give you something that you have no clue, and they want you to make it happen. And I guarantee you, because it happened to me, I got a couple presentations that was given the last minute. Can you get up there and do it in front of a big audience? And literally, I looked like I was, just stuttering in front of them because it looked bad. Now, and that's the bottom. The worst part of it is when you're aware that you're not doing a good job, it just gets worse. So now in your experience, did anyone ever tell you that from the people that you've coached, what that happened to them when somebody gave them something last minute?
Yeah, and that happens all the time. And we can do a super easy example to kind of practice this. So why don't you just give me a random word, Hurricane?
Random word?
Any word. As long as I
Hurricane.
understand it, obviously. Hurricane, sure.
Hurricane.
So what I need to do, I had a feeling you were going to say that. So what I have to do now is I have to make an introduction with that word. So let's go. Every decision and every disaster has a problem. Whether it's a flood, whether it's a tornado, or whether it's an earthquake, they shake the very core of our realities. They change the very thing that we are, and they morph the things that we believe. But nothing is as devastating as a hurricane. One day, you could have your entire life together, a beautiful home with your family in a park, and the day after, everything could be in ruins. But a hurricane isn't just a method for disaster. It's a method for dominance and empowerment and taking control of one's life. Because if you can become the hurricane in your own life and take ownership of what you're meant to do, what you're meant to believe, and what you're meant to say, then you will be successful and you can achieve the goals that you're meant to do. So how are you going to become that hurricane? That's exactly what I'm going to show in today's presentation. Obviously, I just invented that on the spot, right?
I
This
should
is
have given you a harder word, man. You did good with that one.
thank
I'm
you.
like, damn.
Yeah, well, the point of this is called the random word exercise. What you want to do is every day for 5 minutes a day, you want to pick 5 words. Just random words: teddy bear, light, laundry, and you just make presentations out of them. I've done that exercise now literally 1,000 times. I'm not extrapolating, like this is whatever. I've just done it a lot. So when you do this 5 times every day, you live in the discomfort a bit. So when you go back to a presentation you have no preparation for, that's actually relevant to your industry, you're going to be a lot more confident.
Okay. So, is there, in your experience, is there, obviously age is not a big, factor, but some people may consider that as a handicap. I should have done this earlier in my career path. I think I missed it. What would you say to that?
Yeah, let's walk through that. So when you're 16, you think you're too young. When you're 25, you're worried what the executives will think. When you're 35, you go, shit, I should have done this in my 20s. When you're 45, you're like, man, it's too late now. When you're 55, you're like, I might as well retire, and then you're dead. So any part of this journey, you're always going to make excuses. So I think a better way of looking at this is not through the promotion, not through what you want to achieve, but rather what impact you want to make. If the message that you have to share matters a lot more than the fear that comes with it, you will overcome and master public speaking. I'm a good example of this. There are so many reasons, Hurricane, that I shouldn't have started my YouTube channel. I don't have a PhD in communication. I have almost zero credentials, even if I presented a lot. Like I have the experience, but I don't have the societal credentials that we want
The
out of
paper.
people. Yeah, where's your coaching certificate, Brenden? Where's your thing and all this useless things that we don't need? But anyways, the point is, society says, Brenden, you shouldn't do that. Just stick to your job, go be an executive, go do something else with your life. But the other side of the coin is, what about 16-year-olds? Who do they have to look up to on public speaking? Right now, if you type public speaking tips on YouTube, they have 60-year-olds to look up to. That's not going to help anybody. Because when Julia looks at the 60-year-old dude, she's going to say, public speaking's not for me. I'm just going to close my laptop and never speak again. But if she sees me and goes, oh, this person's my age, or this person's really close to my age, it's pretty young, I can learn something from this person. So now it becomes a mission. It becomes a driver for those people. So you want to get really clear on who you're trying to help. And if you do that, then you can achieve great results.
Yeah, but I think listen, whatever your concept, your channel, your idea, and what you're trying to convey. I mean, to your point, yes, the younger folks will obviously relate, right, and feel that there is a connection. And the higher things, I mean, obviously there's age clashes. I mean, generation, gaps between a certain age and another, and therefore there's different styles and personalities. But the content, what you just did, for example, with that word technique and the concept of repeating, that can fly forever. I can use that. Anybody can use that in their career path. But some people, to your point earlier, is that they might have a difficulty, seeing themselves doing something at a particular point of their life because they just feel that it's over for me. And I think we can clearly or comfortably say that it's never too late, right? You can learn. I mean, we can learn from you. And that's the other thing. The concept of age, old school mentality may say, well, you're a young person. What am I going to learn from you? To your point, you don't have credentials. I'm not going to take your advice. That's not true. I actually learn from my kids, and they're 13 and 14. And I've been learning, some things from them. Literally, they know more than I do because they're in certain circles and some knowledge that I may not be privy to, right? So it's important that, while, you have to look for the right content, the right audience, the right person that is going to be the lead for you for a particular item, it's okay to also know that you can learn from multiples, right?
Absolutely. Like I think the idea, and this is what I tell to the 60-year-olds I coach, is age is just a number.
That is. It's how you feel. It's here.
Yeah, it's an arbitrary number that we've created in our heads. And the people who are closed-minded to anything, to new ideas, I think my number one rule, my philosophy has been listen to the people who want to listen to you. Listen to the people who want to hear your ideas and start there and grow from there. Don't focus on converting people who don't want to hear you, who don't want to eat those avocados. Focus on the people who do and who want to
I like
grow.
avocados, man.
I really love avocados. I'm eating a lot of them. Pistachios too. It's just
Nice, nice. You're doing the health thing. That's good. So one other question that I really see, and I've seen this happen, where people have talent, have content, they're good, but for some of those folks may not have the clarity in their English, and some people may be immigrants to the U.S. or Canada, but they have great brains. I mean, they have the ability, they have skills, but conveying that, and sometimes just because they have an accent, they actually are literally they hinder themselves. They actually inhibit themselves and abilities, thinking that because I have an accent, I'm not able to actually do a good job. What would you say to that?
yeah. There's this guy I was listening to, Jason Capital. He says, "Let the marketplace reject you, but never reject yourself."
Ooh, I
Right.
mean, you closed me with that one. I don't have to go further.
I'd love to speak more on second languages because I get it. Like just to give people context on my story.
I
Growing up
love
in
that.
Montreal, I went to a French education system, so all my presentations were in French, but I didn't speak the language. So imagine being uncomfortable with presentations and giving presentations in a language I didn't even know. So I was in grade two, three, four. I'd panic every time I'd have to present because I didn't know French. So if I can master public speaking, I am confident anybody listening can because I'm proof. That's one thing. Second thing is the following. The biggest difference between first and second language is just vocabulary, not intelligence. Vocabulary. That means, let's say your first language is English and you transition into French, it's not because you don't know how to speak French. You just say, "Oh, I know this word is in English, but I forgot what it is in French." But that happens like 10% of the time. So what you want to do to fix this, and this is what I did, for all of your important speeches, like the repeatable one you want to do, you want to write it first in your first language. Not your second, in your first language, because you know all the vocabulary, you know the context, you know what you want to say. Then translate that script into the language you need to speak it in. So English to French or French to English or whatever the languages are.
Mhm.
So in my case, English to French. Then after that, present that script to people whose native tongue is the language you're speaking in. So let's say me, my first language is English, my second language is French, and I need a keynote in French, and I'm not good in French. So I'm good now, but not when I started practicing.
Sure.
What I would do is I would write it all in English, translate it in French, and then give the presentation in French to French native speakers. So what those people would do is they would say, Brenden, I need you to change this sentence here, this grammar, just change. This is what we call a vocabulary test. So when people start changing it for you, then when you do it again in French, then you'll be perfect. And that'll give you the confidence that you never had before presenting in a second language, and then you could present without doing that ever again.
So you devised a way to actually kind of bypass that fear and make the ability to do it by literally just converting a process, which again, that's brilliant, and it did work for you. Now I can relate. As we've done the little practice before with French. I mean, I in my world I kind of mix a few languages every now and then, and it becomes a very challenging. And that's the other thing. Sometimes on a speech or whatever you're doing a presentation, you have words that actually kind of mix in the language. I don't know if that ever happened to you, but it does happen to me sometimes, where your mind is actually throwing. It's the same word, it's just that it's said in French a little way different versus in English, and you would actually say it in a French accent, and we're like, oh, what was that? But again, to what we're taking from this, Brenden, is that there are no limits. You can do it if you want it. You have to just work towards it. Don't put that, I mean, that particular sentence you just said, don't worry about let people fail you, or reject you, but don't reject yourself. That's an important, message. I think if there's a couple of messages from this particular show, that is a big one. Self-confidence is key, and you have to believe that you can do it. With work and practice, you can get better at anything, and you become excellent. And again, Brenden, you are a good example, right? I mean, you've challenged yourself since the beginning, and now you're coaching people and actually giving, training lessons to a lot of people around the world. Because technically YouTube is worldwide, right? I mean, and now in YouTube, you do in English only, or you do also French?
You got it, English only, but I do have one video, like that second language one we did, that I did some of it in French.
Okay, nice, nice. So do you plan maybe to expand your horizon and have a team that does this, or for now you're just a solo?
I do have a team now, so I'm a team of three. So me, my video guy, and the guy who does all my design.
Nice.
But definitely in 10, 15 years after I have a sizable income so I can invest, I'm definitely going to start translating the content in different languages. Absolutely.
See, and YouTube, what are some of the comments, questions that you get all the time? I mean, in YouTube you always get questions and comments. Someone is always going to say something. So what are some of the good and the bad maybe you've heard?
For sure. So I would say good is definitely, the impact that I'm making with the channel is a lot bigger than even I thought. I was just a dude who's making videos in my basement, my mother's basement to be more specific. And now I'm a lot more professional.
Microsoft started there too, or
Yeah.
garages. So a lot of big companies start in garages and basements. So don't worry
Yeah,
about
it's a
that.
great place to start, apparently. But anyways, that's the thing. So a lot of people, I've impacted, thousands of people at this point on how to speak better, like mental health advocates who are really scared about presentations. They watch a couple of my videos, they go, oh, this public speaking thing's not so hard after all. Let me just go do that. So that's definitely the positive. Negative has been really fun, actually. So I had this really
I like the
funny idea.
positives. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so I had this funny idea when I started. I was like, you know what? I know exactly how I want to grow this channel. I'm going to email a bunch of university professors, share them this, and say, share it with your students. They're going to love it because they all struggle with communication. There are so many university professors who applied with, I hate you. You suck. Like, I
Seriously?
was like, these are tenured professors. They sent me
Wow.
lots of hate email. And it was pretty funny, actually. I was like, these people have PhDs and they're mocking my videos. It was kind of funny. So that's probably the hate that resonated.
Well, but you prevailed. You're here.
Yeah,
2 years
yeah.
later, you got a following, right? And it's not stopping you. You're very young. You have a whole long way ahead of you, and I'm sure you're inspiring quite a few other folks. And hope you're probably going to create some competition within, because some people would probably start, hey, listen, I want to do this too. So, do you feel like that about that? Does that bother you?
Not at all. Actually, I hope people copy my stuff because my goal is, the reason I started it was to democratize the information, to make it more accessible. Because most people in my industry, they don't share all their information for free because they make too much money. So why would they? If I got 10 CEO clients, they pay me, 20, 40 grand, 10 grand, 5 grand, whatever the number is. Doesn't matter. I have a multiple six-figure living. I don't need to make free videos. So yeah,
You're not
I don't
worried.
think I don't think they're gonna make videos. And if they do, and I hope they do, it would make things more interesting. Maybe I'll get some new video ideas from their content.
See, you see positive in everything. I like that.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so you and I do have a lot in common, and I actually can resonate quite, nicely with some of the stuff that you just did and relate to. So, yeah, I mean, listen, competition doesn't scare. It shouldn't. Competition is good. It's healthy. Feedback, as long as it's positive, I'm positive. Obviously, hate is not something that we want to, I guess, approve of, and unfortunately, it's out there in everyday life. But it is sad. But you know what? It doesn't stop you. There are people that would always, say negative when they see you don't. When there's nothing going on, nobody's complaining. But when someone comes up and highlights themselves, everybody like wants to point the finger. But you know what? You're the first. And I always say this to my teams and in circles that I work with. Oh, the main thing is you have to be the first one to do it. The rest is history. You still mark the history, and you're the first one, and you can take that to the grave. It doesn't matter. So be a pioneer. Be first at everything that you can do. Be innovative. Don't fear anyone, and just keep giving. To your point, information is a key thing. It's an element that should be given. Obviously, with today's social, Google, all this stuff, I mean, you can find any information you want. But a lot of people put a lot of blood, and time and energy and effort to actually really give, information. I mean, YouTube, to your point when you mentioned, it's everything you can think of is there. You can literally put a question in there and you find somebody that actually did something about something. and it can help you and help me and help everybody find a way to certain things, whether it's technology, electronics, I don't know what it is, lighting, like in my case, a studio, whatever it is. You can find tools, you can find services, you can have people that give you the exact way of doing certain things. So people like you are making that happen. So thank you. And I would thank all the YouTubers from this platform actually that are providing any good content, even bad content or fun content is all good. Content is content. I mean, there's an audience for everything, right? So
That's
again,
true.
everybody is doing something. We should always salute and actually give all the kudos to, because they're doers, as opposed to just people that just point a finger or just not helping and supporting in any other shape other than just criticizing. But unfortunately, that is a fact of life, and we're gonna have those people across, I guess until infinity time, right? So what else can you tell us, in terms of your future aspiration?
Yeah, for sure. So the goal now is to have the biggest YouTube channel on public speaking, not for ego, not to be number one, because it doesn't really matter, but to share this information with more people so that people have access to this stuff, so that the next change makers of our society, the next 16-year-old Cambodian girl who doesn't have money for a speech coach, can learn from me. The 17-year-old who wants to start a business but doesn't know how to speak properly or is scared of public speaking can learn from me. That's what I really want to be. I want to be that beacon for people who can't afford public speaking coaching, but who know I exist so they can leverage all the resources anyways and still share their ideas with the world.
So if someone wants to have you as their coach right now, how do they go about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So usually, because I'm pretty picky with my clients usually, so what I recommend people to do is I would start watching the YouTube videos first, at Master Talk. There's a lot of great free stuff there. Learn from it. And if you're someone who wants to invest in coaching or just has a question or an insult or a comment, feel free to just message me on Instagram. I'm at Master Your Talk. Very accessible. I answer all my DMs, so don't be shy to contact me if you have any questions.
So Master Talk is the YouTube channel, and what was the Instagram?
Master Your Talk.
Master Your Talk. All right, there you have it. So Brenden is available, and again, I'm pretty sure there are trainers out there that may not have content would use direct. Now, would you do this also like remotely? Like say if a company wants to hire you for a certain training and just, literally via Zoom, would you do it? I mean, does it matter? Or have you
Yeah, I
done?
do. I do that with a lot of clients. You got it.
So it's not necessarily, in person. You can do it remotely and just give them stuff. And do you give homework?
I mean, if people are going to invest in my coaching, I better make sure you get results. So yeah, there's homework.
Okay. Well, no, that's again. I'm just trying to think of all the questions that someone may have. That whoever's listening in or watch this now or later, they should just get that information and the ability to actually reach out to you and learn. So I can tell you in this particular time frame we've been for just about 40 minutes. You've given a lot of very very strong pointers as to how to tackle public speaking. Now again, I'm sure some other people may listen and they're like, well, he's saying this, but there's other ways to do it. There's always other ways. That's fine, but ways. The good news is there's different styles, and there's one style here, and we can take that. And if you want to get some more stuff, please go ahead and do it. But to your point, there's not a lot of people that actually do this right now, not on YouTube and not in mass media, if you want to call it that way. So it's really I'm sure there are motivator or like public speaking coaches out there as well that are being used around the world. But now you just have your own brand. That's it.
Absolutely.
So what would you tell us before we end the show?
Yeah, no, I always like to end with a book recommendation. So there are people who like books, who like reading, who like learning. I'd encourage you all to check out Thirst by Scott Harrison. It's the best book I've ever read in my life. And
What is it called again?
Thirst by
First.
Scott Harrison. It's a great book, lots of stories about redemption, about storytelling. And Scott is a really fantastic guy. He grew his nonprofit from zero to $360 million in 12 years. Really smart guy. And I like that he applies a lot of the public speaking and storytelling that I really talk about in this show. And he does it very concretely. So there's a lot of tips that I pulled from the book that I apply to all my workshops. So check it out if you're in for a read.
So thirst, that's the word. And do you do more motivational speaking too, like in your environment or no?
Nah, I had the option to. I just chose not to because I really want to focus on public speaking coaching since no one's really doing that. I might do a bit of motivation later in the future, but definitely not now.
Yeah, because you got good little pitch about it. So I think people can see value in getting motivated, motivating content or motivation period, in their day-to-day life and practices. And I'm pretty sure if someone heard this show today, if their confidence was level 5, they're probably now at 7 or better because they can see that, hey, I can do this. There are a few things I can use, and those little tips can be very helpful. So Brenden, I know time is of the essence. So and I appreciate you joining me on this particular talk show today. And maybe we'll do a second run in the near future, and give us a different scoop, different angle. Yeah, so hopefully people can hear, and whoever listening to this today or will be listening to it later, or viewing at a later time in any of the channels, please feel free to check out the YouTube channel with Brenden, Master Talk. And you can also reach out to him direct. You'll be able to get some direct information. And ultimately, if you really have a need for coaching for your team, by the way, that's a question quickly. You don't do it just for individuals. You can do it to also groups, right? So
Yeah, I have both. You got it.
okay, good. So again, if you have a group of salespeople, a group for people that need to be given some speech, somewhere, school thesis, whatever the case may be, I think you can help them a little bit get polished and make it work, right? If you have a little bit of an anxiety before you stand in front on a stage, maybe you can give them some motivation and some tips how to avoid that. That's a big one. A lot of people have anxiety and stage fright. So, what would you say to that before we end? That came up to me right now.
Absolutely. I would say care enough to crush your fear. If your message doesn't matter, if you don't have a purpose, you don't have a message. If all you want to do is get the next promotion at work, you'll always be scared of public speaking. But if there's a reason why you're speaking, there's a reason why you have a academic research you want to share, you have a cupcake recipe you just want people to know about, you have a nonprofit that you want to raise money for, that gives you an incentive to say, I'm still scared anyways, because I'm still scared of my stuff, but I'm going to push past it because the message I have to share is more important than the fear. So care enough to crush it.
Care enough to crush it. And the other one was, do not let everybody, all the world, the public, what is it? Reject you,
No
but
worries.
don't
Let the marketplace reject you, but never reject yourself.
So you got to trade those, that. I trademark them.
I can't trademark the second one. It's not from me. That's from Jason Capital. I just like quoting him.
Well, again, if you have one that's yours, I would suggest to get that done. You never know. They're catchy, but they're good concepts, and again, totally appreciated the feedback here and the content as well as the advice. So, Brenden, thank you for joining, and good luck out there, and keep the pace, keep the ambition, keep the targets ahead of you, and don't miss. I know you're gonna do well, and maybe one day when you're like the superstar YouTuber and you have your own coaching series, and people go to these mass gatherings to see you and your team. Just remember, Hurricane Issues. Don't forget about me, right? All right, man. So that being said, our listeners, viewers, thank you for joining in today, for listening, watching. Again, always trying to bring you content, the different things that can help you and guide you in your world, in your career, give you information, give you inspiration, whatever the case may be that you're looking for. The channel is there for you, and our guests, of course, are bringing always a new twist, a new piece of information that we might not have had before. Some of it we may even know, but we don't know everything. So there's always something that we can learn from any of those particular guests of us, of our show. So Brenden, thank you. And you have a great day. A great night, rather. I'm not sure, right? But it's the same time, right? So we're good. There's
We're
no
good.
time difference, right? Still a little early. And, thank you for watching the iHealth channel. Thank you for listening on iHealth Radio. Have a great day. Have a good night. Stay safe out there. And goodbye, Hurricane H. Bye-bye.